All these rumors are fun to talk about. And Red Bull hasn't blown up yet.
Alex Albon's birthday, and his gift, Logan Sargent's car.
With the drain covers, why is this such a big issue?
That's what I'm saying.
Alonso more and more is looking like Aaron Rodgers.
He's geriatric. We just kind of want him for merit mark.
You cannot win a constructors battle when your second driver is not performing.
Grab your popcorn, folks. Things are getting crazy.
Hey guys, and welcome back to Lights Out Latest. My name is Marino, and I'm here with Tristan, Steven, and Jason. And today we got a couple fun topics to cover. But as always, news first. IMSA Daytona 24-hour. A lot of F1 drivers there. We hit, the final 3 hours? Final 2 hours?
About 250 or so.
What F1 drivers are there? I actually didn't even know there was some.
Former.
Yeah.
K-Mag.
Oh, he's racing in the 24 hours?
I don't know if you count Arthur Leclerc as a former F1 because he was just reserve.
He's just there.
Yeah, he's
there.
He's chilling.
Who else did I catch? Not F1, but Alex Palou.
Future F1 question
Daniel
mark.
Kvyat, who is Romain Grosjean's teammate.
Yeah, what's he racing? Is
That's
it GT3?
No. They're
LMP2?
both in the Lamborghini LMDH.
Oh, yeah.
They're both in the top class.
Huh.
Nice. What I love. We were
Kamui
talking about
Kobayashi
this.
is there too.
Well, what I love about this that we were talking about, me and Steve were talking about on the way here was, it's essentially 4 races in one because there's the 4 different car categories and like the difference is actually insane. Like if you think about F1, they'll like say if Max is leading, he'll lap the back markers once in a race, maybe twice if it's like if there's like a lot of crashes or something. But for the most part, it's like once in an hour and a half. These guys are like 51 laps. Last time I checked, they're 51 laps behind in 20 hours.
Are you talking? Yeah, but is that like the same class?
No. Like I'm talking about like because I'm
Across
saying there's
the
4
classes.
classes
Oh,
across the classes. The difference is like actually insane.
Well, it's fun when you see the like the LMPs and the DPIs. I don't even know what the classes are called anymore. I know they change them like every freaking year. But when they get to the GT cars and they're racing for position and they just have to blow the freaking mirrors off the GT cars because they can't keep up. It is fun.
I wonder how you feel as like a GT3, GTD driver, just seeing these guys fly past you like that.
It's got to feel weird, right?
It really does.
It's a different type of racing where you have to manage the back markers as well as your competitors.
Yeah.
I think it's also like it's like you got to be like mentally, you got to know like that's not my race.
Oh yeah.
Like it is like we're still on the same race. But it's not my race.
See, that's so hard. Like, I actually think it's harder for the GT cars because you know you're not the top dog out there, but you know you're not racing the top dogs.
Yeah.
But it still feels weird. It's like, oh, yeah, like, we're leading in class, buddy. Good job. And you just get like, just, like, right past you. Like,
it's like if you had NASCARs and F1 cars on the same track at the same time.
Yeah.
I mean, you would have these guys. I would imagine myself, I would be terrified. Like, you're racing your own race. You're already fighting hard with other guys in your class. And all of a sudden, you're having these guys who are going like 50, 70 miles per hour faster than you. Just like, oh.
Yeah, for real.
And there's the aspect, too, of like it's a 24-hour race. And yet, if you think about it, like if you thought like F1, if there's like a 12, 18-second gap, that's like race over, right?
Yeah.
Like there's very little you can do. But like, in a 24-hour race, with these last 2 hours to go, there's 12-second gap between first and second. It's still anybody's game.
I was going to say, that's not bad.
That's not bad at all.
Especially last year when it came down to literally the last lap. There was I don't know what class it was, but there was literally a photo finish. I'm pretty sure last year.
It was really close.
Yeah,
pretty sure.
really close.
There's also, like, you can go the whole race, like, leading or being dominant, and then if you're, like, I know a couple years ago, I think like Tony Stewart, Dale Earnhardt Jr., they were racing in a car. I don't know what class it was. I think it was just Daytona prototype at that time. And like the last 10 minutes of the race, they had their suspension just take a dump, and they lost. Like it's crazy. You can be perfect all day, but if your car blows up with 5 minutes to go and the guy behind you is like, like 20 laps behind or something, he'll catch you. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Well, that's the name of the game, right? Being able to withstand that much time.
Is this a hot take to say that endurance racing is harder than F1?
Different discipline, in my opinion.
Okay.
It's like trying to say the marathon is harder than the sprint.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's
Marathon
true.
runner
That's
would
true.
get wiped in the sprint. Like it's you can't.
That's true.
It's a tough comparison. I did see the graphic they made though. Is that it's going to be 2,700 something miles, And
That's
that if
insane.
they were to race in not a straight line, but a straight enough line from Daytona, they would get all the way to California by the end of the race, I think is what they said.
Wow.
That's crazy.
That's
Yeah.
I
Wow.
have the full list of F1 drivers. So Felipe Nasser, who
Oh, Felipe Massa's racing too.
yeah, Felipe Massa too.
Oh, he's in it too?
Yeah.
yeah.
Jeez, a lot of people.
Will
down there.
Stevens,
Oh.
Brendan Hartley,
Anthony
Oh,
Davidson.
wow.
is
Anthony
racing.
Davidson, but he never drove an F1 car.
No, but he commentates on F1.
Yeah. We have Jack Aitken, who did that one race for
Yes.
Williams. We already mentioned Kobayashi, Grosjean, Kvyat, Pascal Wehrlein, reigning Formula E champion. This guy Bruni, who raced for Minardi, apparently. And then of course we have Sebastian Bourdais, Paul Di Resta, Piero Fittipaldi,
Yeah.
and as mentioned Felipe Massa.
What I think is really funny, well, not funny, but first of all, there's the aspect of there are still guys that are so young,
Yep.
that are racing, because we're kind of out of season. Like, what else are you gonna do?
Yeah.
Right. And there's the older generation of F1, like Felipe Massa, who's like, I mean, he's not doing much. And then he could just come in and do these like 24-hour events.
yeah.
Not that it doesn't take preparation or whatever, but I think
Yeah.
it's just kind of like a more of a one-off thing
Endurance
for a lot of these guys.
almost feels like a country club for racing.
Well, that's what it
It's
is
like-
for the
There's so many
GT
of them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you have these guys who are like you said, like maybe casuals out of the sport for a while, just coming to like, hey, you guys want to go do endurance racing? Yeah, sure, I'll be
sure.
there.
Let's
yeah,
go.
I mean,
yeah,
there are full-time drivers. Like a lot of IndyCar drivers
No, yeah.
also do
Yeah.
a full schedule of IMSA
Yeah.
because they're usually not on IndyCar weekends. Like Grosjean, that's what he did last year. He did Lamborghini IMSA, and then also did a full like IndyCar schedule.
Yeah.
But then the funny you mentioned country club because that's how most of the GT class is funded. Is like you have some
yeah. It's just the doctors,
Yeah,
the doctor class,
yeah,
right?
yeah, that's LMP3. There's no
Yeah,
LMP3 this year, but people joke it's the dentist class because it's the cheapest level of
Yeah.
like prototype racing.
It's awesome.
So you get some dentist to fund the car, and then you hire a professional driver to rotate with you, and then
Yeah.
That's
boom.
so funny.
Yeah,
Oh
no,
my
that's funny.
gosh.
I really want. I mean, obviously we talk about Le Mans, but like I would love for, like I think about it, I was like, why did Max decide to do it? Like, granted, he has a lot going on. He's a kid on the way, but it's like I feel like he would be the type to do this. Like this
Oh,
is
yeah, for
He's
exactly
done it
who would
virtually
do it.
before.
I
Yeah,
wonder
but I
if
think
his
he'd be
contract
exactly who would
permits
do
him
it.
to. I mean, there's
Maybe.
also I don't know what Red Bull's like leniency is.
That could be.
Yeah, they
I
may
th-
not
I
let
would
him compete.
I would say that Red Bull's leniency is probably more with Max than it is with anybody else.
That's fair. Yeah.
But yeah, that's a good point contract wise.
I do see, looking at the live leaderboards here, that there's a guy, Connor Zilish, is in it.
Oh yeah,
And
yeah.
he is the one that's bringing Red Bull back to NASCAR.
He was a
that's
Oh, I
pretty
forgot to
cool.
put that on the news sheet.
Yeah.
Well,
Let's
it's just a
talk about that.
sponsorship.
It
It's
is,
not
but
like-
Hey,
still,
Jason, don't
man.
underplay it, man.
Still, man.
Don't underplay it.
Okay,
Yeah.
if we were like, and not to say we're not like mainstream or whatever, but like if we were mainstream, people would go nuts because we talk about everything before it happens.
Hey, hey.
It happens so many times.
Hey, pin this
We were-
episode for the 10 years looking back. We'll
Yeah.
be saying, remember when we were
We
breaking
were
news before anyone
literally-
else?
Yeah, we were
Facts.
literally talking about this last week.
Yeah.
About Red Bull and NASCAR, Red Bull and other racing series and stuff, and then we get this social
the
media
IndyCar
post in our
return.
inbox.
Oh my
like-
gosh, Red Bull IndyCar would be cursed.
Oh, yeah.
That would be
man.
so cursed.
Then we need Max to do the 500. That'd be insane.
Oh, man.
LOL.
Max and Sergio back at it again
Well,
in
freaking-
IndyCar.
Oh, yeah.
Helio Castroneves is doing the 500. The
Hmm?
Daytona 500.
Really?
Yeah. They got a lot of, there's a lot of like.
There's a lot of good guys. Hinch is doing the 500. I don't know if we mentioned him already. 'Cause he
Really?
yeah.
Indy or
Not the Indy. Sorry, the one we were just talking about, the Daytona.
NASCAR.
Daytona?
Not
Wait,
the 500.
really?
Sorry. My brain. I was responding to a text. Not the 500. Sorry. The Daytona 24-hour that we were just talking about.
Oh,
He's
yeah.
out, but he was doing that too.
Interesting.
We switched topics while I was texting.
That's
My
okay.
bad. What were we talking about?
Red Bull.
500.
Yes.
Y'all were talking about the 500.
Yes.
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 Both of them.
Yeah, I know, but I just think it's crazy, like how many people. It's almost like there are a lot of people, like you said, that
Yeah.
that race IMSA or race WEC or whatever, and like endurance is the name of the game, right? That's
Yeah.
their thing.
Yep.
But there's also a lot of people that just like, I don't want to say do it for fun, but it's like
Yeah.
a little side.
Yeah.
I know I
quest
just
kind
said
of thing.
country club, but there's another what's the word? Comparison I could think of. endurance racing is what pickleball is to us to them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's kind of funny.
I think it's kind of funny, like, sometimes, this might be a really bad comparison, but sometimes I kind of think of it a little bit when you see all these, like, Formula F1 as kind of like a Pro Bowl kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's like,
I was
like
thinking of it
out
as
of
like
regular
graveyard.
season, not what you're normally doing or whatever, and you just come in and, like, do it.
Yeah.
Again, this is exclusively talking about, like, former F1 drivers or people that aren't, like, 100% all in on IMSA, like people
Yeah.
that are just kind of racing
Yep.
this race, or they just race Le Mans or whatever. So
I think there's a lot of guys that also kind of chase that like Mario Andretti high of like, because Mario Andretti won in Formula One, won multiple races in like IMSA, like, you know, World Endurance, and then won the Daytona 500.
yeah,
And there's like a lot of like, he has like a lot of pedigree because he won he did all these disciplines and
Yeah.
found success. And I think there's a lot of people seeking that. Again, we hear
Oh,
about
yeah.
the Triple Crown and stuff like that. Like,
oh yeah,
there's
Yeah.
all sorts of like, not like greed, but it's like people are like, I want to, like, this is something I can do. I will do
Yeah.
it. I'm going to figure it
Yeah.
out.
Do you think that an F1 driver cares about a Triple Crown because they've already won?
I don't think they care
what they
as
care
much.
is what I would probably consider as like the number one. Like if
Yeah,
If
I think
they've
Max
won
does.
Monaco.
I think Max would be
You
like
think
one of
Max
the people.
wants
It's like
to?
him and like, you got to look at the people that are like passionate in it.
yeah,
Because I don't think Max is a passionate Formula One driver. I think Max is a passionate
race
racing
car
driver.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like him, Fernando, Felipe, like a lot of these guys
Yeah,
you
yeah.
see purposely go out of their way and like try to run the big races, like Fernando doing the Indy 500 and stuff.
yeah,
That's who you got to look at. Charles Leclerc. I don't know. I think Charles maybe will do Le Mans in the
Oh, I
Ferrari
think he
car.
will.
But like that's about it. I don't think he has an intrigue to maybe go race the Daytona 500
Yeah.
or the Indianapolis 500. You got to look at those like I'm trying to think like maybe
Kimi Räikkönen, funny enough, he did everything. Like, soon as he left F1, he went to rally. He's done rallies since. He went to NASCAR,
Did
did
NASCAR.
like a
Yeah.
part-time schedule with them. Like,
Yeah.
he actually went and raced in COTA. He
He
did Oval.
he seems like the type to race NASCAR. Like,
He
I feel like
does.
he kind of fits.
He had a fun time.
Fits the
I mean, he
mold.
was I think it was at Watkins Glen is where he raced.
raced
and
a lot of he actually raced
Oh,
when
yeah, I think
he
did
first
COTA,
left
too.
Ferrari.
Yeah,
He actually
did
went to
COTA.
the Truck Series and raced in the Truck Series.
Yes, that's yes. So
Kimi the
he-
truck is just so
I
funny
forgot
to me.
about that. He
That's
actually did a
hilarious.
ton of races in the Truck
Yeah.
Series. I forget what team that was for, but I think Rockstar Energy was his sponsor.
that's funny.
But yeah, you got to look at like I think Max is the greatest definition of it because
Yeah.
he has that like obviously with the digital like he does a lot of the online racing and you wouldn't like I don't know like me personally if I was a race car driver I probably would skip the endurance stuff just
Yeah.
because it is cool, it is really like interesting, but I don't know if I have the willpower to be in a car for like
For that long.
for that long.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that
You
hard of
know.
a pace too.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I've always wanted to compete in it online on iRacing because I know iRacing does their own 24-hour
Oh, yeah.
events
Yeah,
and
yeah.
stuff.
I've had friends who've done that. It's
Yeah.
insane.
It just I also think and again like we all play racing games to
Yeah,
some
yeah.
extent and the games that I do play I try and do like the main distances and it's fine but sometimes I will get bored. Like
Oh,
I'm like
yeah.
Oh yeah.
like I love my NASCAR games but there are a point in time where I'm like all right it's a lot of left
Yeah.
turns.
Where you're just sitting there like 200 laps in and you're just scrolling on your phone with the wheel in your hand.
Yeah,
Just like,
exactly. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
Still turning. Oh, no one's behind me. Okay, I'll
Now,
keep going.
also, am I in the cockpit of a car with the whole
No.
fire suit on?
No.
and
No,
like
yeah,
that?
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
no, it's different.
and they have there's a love for it there too. Of
Yeah.
like, this is what I want to do.
Yeah.
Granted, this is going to be a very hypothetical, far-fetched question, but
yeah,
Mm.
if Max and Fernando have talked about doing the 24 hours together,
Yep.
Le Mans,
they've done that. I didn't.
They've talked about
Oh, meaning
wanting to
yeah,
do it.
talked about it.
Yeah.
That'd be
Oh,
fun.
wow, okay.
if them two did it, who would be the third?
George.
That's
Well,
the
just
first
for the
question.
Don't you have four
memes.
drivers?
Third or fourth?
Well, yeah.
So who would be their partners in crime?
Does it? I mean, it obviously doesn't have to
think
be a Formula
it doesn't
One
have to be an F1 driver? It could be
It would be
anybody.
like Brendan Hartley.
And do
Would be
you
cool.
Oh my gosh, Kyle Larson.
Kyle
my
Larson.
and who
God.
do you think they would race for?
Mm.
That's a good. You know what? I would go out on a limb and say that Red Bull would eventually have their own team. Because they're all
That's tough.
well. Because like the
Maybe.
thing is, they're already talking about making their hypercar. So if they
True.
do that, they're already halfway there.
I think we missed that. The whole reason that, what was it? Oh my gosh, this is about Alonso. So he went to Indy 500, and raced for Honda, and Honda let him down then. He complained about Honda relentlessly when it was McLaren Honda. And apparently when he left F1 after 2018, Honda wouldn't let him go in the 500 again in their car, which why in 2019 he had to go with a Chevy team that sucked and not the Andretti Honda team that was good.
Yeah.
And he didn't qualify. So he goes to Le Mans and he races in Toyota because Honda hates him now because all the outspeaking is done. But in 26, Aston Martin's going back to Honda. So that's what I'm thinking is Alonso won't go into 26. Is his contract into 26?
That's actually a good point, though.
I think it's till the end of this year.
Oh,
I think it was a
so
1 year.
This might be his
I think
last
this is
year.
it. I don't think Honda's
But I
going to
could
let
be
him race their car.
I could be wrong. Who would? So you saying like, okay, this is again we're diving into the hypothetical here. The
Here we
predictions.
go. Put your
Prediction
tinfoil
round.
hats on.
Yeah, you beat me to it.
So you saying like what? Yuki
Uh,
and Lance?
That would be one heck of a team.
I don't
Oh
know.
my
Neither of them have
God.
talked about endurance that much. There's so
Well,
many
no, I'm
other
talking
drivers.
about F1.
Oh. Yeah. Oh,
Honda.
obviously. Yes, it would be.
I
that.
would
I would hate
I
that.
would probably take a shot in the dark and say that maybe Nelson Piquet Jr. would race with
Does
Max.
he race? Oh.
He did. Jason goes,
The
uh-oh.
family
Uh,
connection
it
would be
could
really
be-
cool.
Crashgate.
Well, who were the teammates to Alonso at Toyota? It was like Kobayashi, Sebastian Buemi, Brendan Hartley, Felipe Nasser. They were not Honda, Toyota in Le Mans. So I think it has to be one of them.
You think one of
Yeah.
them?
So it'd be
Yeah.
Fernando, Max, like Felipe Nasser, and Kamui Kobayashi. It'd be a lineup like that.
That's pretty.
That's a
pretty
pretty
cool.
good hot lineup, if I
yeah.
say so myself.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Let's move into away from endurance. Let's talk these new FIA rules, which I hate with a passion. So for people who don't know, essentially new rules came out about swearing and kind of, I guess, defaming the FIA. I'm gonna see if I can pull up the exact thing so I can read it off.
Oh, I mean, I have it here.
Do you have it?
Yeah.
Go for it then.
Yeah. So first offense is punishable by 40,000 euros. 40,000 euro fine. Second offense, 80,000 euro fine, and is suspended 1 month of suspension from competition. Third offense, 120,000 euro and a 1 month suspension.
Right, because the original, if you've seen it on, a lot of the images are, say, 10,000, 20,000, and 30,000.
Yep.
That's not the F1 value. The F1 value is whatever monetary value is on there times 4.
Yep.
This is like the base value.
Dang, that's insane. So you could get a 1 month suspension
Right.
from like Formula
correct.
2 or Formula 3.
Yep.
Too.
And
This
it
is-
literally says, it says any words, so the first section is any words, deeds, or writings that have caused moral injury or loss to the FIA, its bodies, its members, or its executive officers, and more generally on the interests of motorsport and on the values defended by the
yeah.
FIA.
So this isn't
So
even
this isn't
like
just
bad
like,
words.
oh, I can't cuss.
Yeah.
This is I can't speak poorly on the FIA.
You know
That's
what?
insane.
You know what I didn't think about either? This is across FIA sports. This isn't just F1.
Yeah, absolutely.
This is Formula E. This is World Endurance. This is World Rally. Like
all the lower Formula.
that is mind
World
blowing.
endurance is weird because FIA has some endurance oversight,
Yeah.
but it's actually sanctioned by the FIM. I think
What is that?
it's a totally different. I think FIM
again,
is motorbikes.
I
though.
want to
Oh,
say,
interesting.
and I want to say again.
No, the
this-
ACO. No, not ACO.
What
Who sanctions Le Mans?
what confuses me too is does this apply anywhere? Is this exclusive to interviews and press conferences, or does
Yeah.
this can I go on a random ass podcast and say shit and get
I
fined
hope
for it?
not, but I wouldn't be
I would
surprised
assume
either.
it's race weekend exclusive
Yeah. I don't know. Because, I mean,
because again, that was the first category. Then there's any misconduct, and it's defined lower on, but I'm not gonna read that.
Yeah.
Any public incitement of violence or hatred, the general making and displaying of political, religious, and personal statements or comments, notably in violation of the general principle of neutrality promoted by the FIA under its statutes, unless previously approved in writing by the FIA, and then failure to comply with the instructions of the FIA regarding the appointment and participation of persons during official ceremonies at any competition counting towards FIA championships.
I feel like, well, that rule of political statements was already put in place a couple years ago.
Yes, but now you do a political
But now
statement,
there's
and
fine.
so it's the 40,000 euros is the first one, plus public apology, and then the next one is 80,000 public apology and 1 month suspension, and then the third one 120,000 euros public apology, 1 month suspension, and deduction of championship points.
That's insane. So it's not
So-
even just bad words anymore. It's like I can't
Right.
say Mohammed Ben Sulayem is stupid.
Exactly. So you cannot speak poorly of the FIA or its people.
So
Should you do
What if
that?
all the drivers do it? Well, hold on.
Okay,
Go
so-
back. Does any other sports league do this? Like the NFL is not saying you can't
No.
criticize
No.
Roger Goodell.
You
No.
can't. No, the NFL has fines for swearing. If you swear in an interview,
or skipping on interviews.
skipping an
But
interview,
F1
things
has
like
almost
that,
every
which
sport
F1
has skipping on
most
interviews.
most do, and I don't have a problem. I genuinely do not have a problem with you saying if you cuss in a press conference, you're going to be fined 10,000 euros or 40,000, whatever the value is. I don't care. I really couldn't care less.
Yeah.
When you're coming to the point where it's like a championship could be decided because Max said "fuck you,"
I was gonna say this is gonna be the downfall of Max Verstappen.
Yeah.
like, and
He's gonna leave.
it's just
Yeah.
stupid. Yeah, like, it's like how far are you gonna go until Max starts to leave, and drivers just don't want to race. There
Yeah.
are so many. We were just talking about endurance. There are so many amazing categories in motorsports. Granted, I don't think this is going to be the hill they're gonna fall on, but like
No.
the sword they'll fall on. But like if it keeps going in this direction, F1 is gonna fall.
Well, yeah, that's
Like-
what I was thinking. I mean, if this if this continues, and you have drivers coming out, if you're a driver coming in, I mean, how do you feel about this going into
Yeah, if you're a
F1?
rookie.
You're gonna be like, I don't want that, like, and then no one's gonna sit there and be like, oh, I want to go to this posh place and I can't curse. We're talking about the NFL, no
Yeah.
fun league. That's what
Yeah.
F1's turning into, and
No, absolutely.
it's like,
I think.
yeah,
And
It's
the
not good.
I think the bigger issue is that now you can't criticize the FIA.
yeah, it's like
Yeah.
Right? It's not even just the cussing. It's I can't speak poorly publicly about the
Yeah.
FIA.
not
Period.
not to bring
And
in,
not just F1, anyone.
yeah,
Right?
yeah.
So
Not to bring in politics into this, but that screams dictatorship.
no, it does. And the fact that there's rumors about it being not just it wasn't something that like people knew about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This was just like randomly put into place all of a sudden.
Yeah.
They didn't inform F1 or FIA drivers. Didn't inform the GPDA. A lot of the members, like of FIA, people that work in the FIA, didn't know about it and didn't approve it.
Yeah.
This was kind of like act alone of a, like you said, kind of a dictator. Is
Yeah.
like Mohammed Salayem, who's president, just decided like, oh, you want to come at me with this Instagram post that's blatantly disrespecting me
Yeah.
and calling me out on my bullshit. Fine, here you go.
Yeah.
That's what it felt like.
It screams dictatorship.
It does.
Mm-hmm. I mean, is there a chance that this is his superiors coming out and being like, we don't like the image you're raising at F1, and being like, you need to
Who's his
change something?
superior,
Well, I'm
though?
thinking like his country. Do you
No.
think that's part of it?
No, this is all
No.
him.
Okay.
This is all him. He wants to stop the criticisms. Like this goes back to what we've talked about before. It's
But
like
this is
any
the
other
opposite of the
president
criticism.
FIA. Like sure, there's been drama, but the previous one, John Todt, like never heard about him, never controversy, never spoken
Nobody
in media.
knew him. Like,
Which
and
is
the average
exactly
F1
what
fan didn't
should
know who he
be.
was.
Yeah.
Because really, the FIA is there to govern the sport, not necessarily its drivers.
Yeah.
Like
It's
other
like you shouldn't know who the head referee is if they're doing their job.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly, and
Yeah.
and I think other FIA presidents didn't really care about a driver personally. Not to say that like behind the scenes they weren't friends,
Yeah.
but when it came to their job, it wasn't their. It's not his place to personally judge you or penalize you. It's their job to monitor what happens on track.
Yeah.
Granted, there is a certain element of protecting reputation, but if your problem is people swearing, monitor that. Make that a fine. Now, for you to say I can't criticize you anymore as a driver, that
Yeah.
could be dangerous.
Absolutely.
Like think about the way Senna died. If you can't openly criticize the FIA,
Yeah.
how
I
far
mean,
does it go?
Yeah. I mean, this is like a very scary stepping stone.
Oh, yeah.
Here in the world
Yeah.
of F1. I mean, again, if this continues, things are only going to get worse. And yeah,
Absolutely.
I mean, F1's not going to be the same. It's not.
I gotta back up. I gotta say, Jason, that was an excellent quote. You shouldn't know what's it called?
The
name
head
of it.
referee.
Yeah, because it made me think. I was like, wait, because I don't know why I immediately went to baseball.
Yeah.
And if there's anybody here that watches baseball like passionately, knows like Angel Hernandez.
Yeah,
Yes.
Hernandez.
Yep.
And that's it. Like I was like, wait, yeah, I really shouldn't know these people's names.
Yeah.
They're the officiates. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, sure, you can have a personality in the sport as not the athlete, but still, like, they're known for being terrible at their job. That's
Yeah.
their whole point.
Choose referees.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's
Yeah.
also true.
No,
but,
absolutely.
yeah, I don't know why. It's just like,
No,
all right,
that's true.
say it, brother, say
Yeah.
it.
I mean,
Yeah.
you see in the NFL too with refs. I mean, there are guys that I mean,
Yeah.
I can't name them off the top of my head.
No,
but
yeah.
There is guys for sure in the NFL that are more likely to call penalties than
Yeah,
others.
whoever's
Oh, yeah.
in Patrick Mahomes' phone book. That's
Mhm.
who.
Mhm.
Don't even get me started.
Mhm.
There-
'Cause we
well,
can talk about that all day.
Oh
Muhammad
yeah.
Ben
If we're talking
Sulayem.
about the Super Bowl next week and on the podcast, and it involves the Chiefs, I don't think I'll be a very happy camper.
Yeah, it
That's
might not be
fine.
for a good reason either.
Mohammed
Yeah.
Ben Sulayem, his reign of terror ends at the end of this year.
You think so?
It does, because he goes up for re-election.
Oh, there's
unless
no
unless
way.
unless he
There's
just
no
rigs
way
the
he's
election.
getting
Nah, ain't no
I
way.
mean, but do his people love him?
No.
Like, no, he's universally
been
disliked.
firing
He just
everybody.
went behind their back and fired people.
Well, see,
Yeah.
but like that's
Well,
what I
both,
mean.
not
Is he
like-
putting people now that he likes in their
He's creating his own
roles?
cabinet?
Like, yeah, like an
a good
unfireable
point.
position. you know what
I would not
That's a
be
good
surprised.
If
I
you stack
would
the
not be
deck with a
surprised.
bunch of aces, then
No,
you're never
yeah,
gonna like,
I wouldn't
luck
be
out.
surprised.
We need somebody like Ross Braun.
Yeah,
What does he do currently?
He was like executive director of racing for Formula One. Like during the transition period to Liberty Media, he like guided the new regulations to do 2022 regulations. And it's the sport that way. But then he left his role. Like that was only a so long thing before he kind of like retired.
Yeah.
I don't think he's doing
Oh
anything.
man, he's got
actively.
a ton of experience.
We
Oh
need-
yeah,
we
no,
need-
he's
oh, yeah.
insane.
Ferrari,
He's crazy.
Honda.
We
Braun,
need Sebastian
I feel-
Vettel as
Braun.
FIA president.
Oh my god, yes,
Benetton.
please.
He's a Benetton when
Yeah.
Schumacher won.
When Schumacher,
think-
yeah.
And I think the other thing is too, obviously F1 is considered the pinnacle of motorsports.
Yeah.
It's definitely one of the highest class series that the FIA monitors.
Yeah.
But it's not the only one,
Nope.
right?
Yeah.
Think about like all
Yeah.
of the other series
WEC,
and that when
rally,
we see rally car
karting,
and
Formula
then
4,
I was gonna say
Malaysian
F4. These kids are like 13
Where Checo
years
Perez
old
is.
driving a car. And think about the society, like not even just that. Think about the society we're growing up in,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
A society where, and again, not to go back to the swearing because I think it's much bigger than this, but where saying fuck is not a bad. It's not. Granted, depends on the
You
situation.
will not
if you're in
get
a job,
canceled.
yeah. If you're in
Yeah.
a job interview, that's not the right time nor the right place, right?
Yeah.
But if you're sitting like in, for lack of a better, like we're sitting in Willard with a bunch of friends, it's very natural. It's very common. It's not something that's penalized.
Yeah.
So it's like
Professors
it
do
just
it.
feels like we're exactly.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah,
I
right.
literally have a professor. We have professors that do it.
Professor Porman.
Professor Porman.
Yeah, he's the best.
He is
Shut
the
up,
best.
Shout out
man.
Foreman.
Shout out Foreman. And he has so much experience in the sports industry. And he knows the right time and place. I'm sure he wouldn't do it with, certain people or in
Yeah.
a certain environment.
Yeah.
I think that's what's important. Not that you said it, but where you said it.
Yeah.
So obviously, if you're saying something in a press conference, or more importantly, if you're saying something directed, or if you're trying to offend somebody using it, oh, there goes my computer. Then that's another story, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think it's very.
These next few years are gonna be very interesting.
I wonder how consistent this is going to be.
It might just get be repealed at the end of the year,
Yeah.
like for the next FIA.
Do we think George likes this?
No, but he doesn't say any bad. Well, he might, but he's always gonna be like crikey.
You know
He's
what's-
gonna say some countryside
slang.
British
Yeah.
slang
Yeah.
that nobody
No, but-
understands.
Bollocks.
But
Like,
but
oh,
like,
my crosser tossers are ruined. Like, I don't know.
how far does it go? Like,
Yeah.
if I get a penalty on track and don't agree with it and
Well, that's the
speak
thing,
out on that,
too.
is that criticizing the FIA?
No, you could always just file appeals. And it's legit to be
Well-
upset, like, oh, I can't believe they gave me a penalty.
Well, I think what Marina said is like, let's say you get your engineer over the mic's like, hey, sorry, we got a sector penalty or something like that, and you're like, man, what the hell? No, that's not true. There's no way. You know, like speaking
That
out like
would be
that,
bad.
and then they're
Oh
like,
my
oh,
gosh.
fine. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man.
You know what's
Interesting to see how
crazy
it's
about
struck.
it all is they have all this like censorship almost with like the new rules, but yet they're gonna promote the hell out of Drive to Survive when it comes out.
Oh yeah.
And Drive to Survive
Is
is just
littered with
yeah,
cuss
curse words
words
and stuff like
That-
that.
and poor image,
Yeah.
right?
That's
But-
not FIA
that's a good-
sanctioned.
It
That's
is,
a good
no,
point.
it isn't. But you know what I mean? Is like it's not a double standard, but it is kind of like, oh, but if we're gonna try and market our sport with this show, let's do it. You know, this is awesome.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, they're like, no,
Thankfully, they
Yeah,
have
don't
no
talk like
control over that.
No.
They have
Yeah.
no control.
No, absolutely.
That would be
But
terrible.
I wonder
Yeah.
if they would have fought, like, assigned the fine to the FIA through if somebody criticized the FIA and Drive to Survive. Does
Oh.
that count, or is it
No,
only
That's
during
my
events?
point, right?
Right.
Is it only during racing events?
It
Is that
has
their
to
only
be.
jurisdiction?
It has to be.
Because
It
again,
better be.
one of the sections is violence.
Like
is
the-
public incitement to violence or hatred, misconduct of any sort. So it's like my point is, in what world, like, okay, let's forget about Max and Ocon. In what world is like an F1 driver, like for example Charles Leclerc, gonna punch someone on the racetrack? It ain't gonna happen. Granted,
Yeah.
if someone attacks his girlfriend on the street when they're walking, he might punch back. That's a whole different, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's
Yeah.
a whole
Yeah.
different ballpark. So how far does this go?
Well, I think
Is that like
the best
race
interpretation?
weekend on and off track?
The best interpretation would be like if a driver came out saying, "I hate this FIA steward. He totally ruined my life," and a driver with a big fan base, right? The fan base immediately goes over and
Yeah.
like berates that one steward online, sends them threats. Like it's happened. The most recent example is in IndyCar. This guy, who was Grosjean's Argentinian teammate?
Oh
gosh.
yeah,
Start with the C.
Yes, that was this past year, right?
Dude,
Yeah. Anyways, he had such a
It's-
passionate fan
I
base
totally
because
know who
he's
he
one of the few Argentinian drivers and the only one in IndyCar.
yeah,
And there's a whole big thing with his teammate on track one race.
right.
And after that, like the guy Isla, his teammate got like bullied out of the team. Like
Yeah.
Yeah.
all the
Yeah.
fans hated him. So
Yeah.
many death threats. The team had to come out with a statement
Yeah.
saying like, please stop. I think Franco was his. No, I forget. Where the driver, the Argentinian driver, had to come out and be like, please stop. This is bad.
No,
So like,
yeah.
I think that's
Yeah.
the best interpretation of the rule. Like you can't mobilize or even give the chance to mobilize your fan base
No.
against somebody.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, and like I said, I get that when it's against someone,
Yeah.
that's another thing, right? That's a
Oh.
whole other thing. Like if you're criticizing a person, if you're in, like you said, kind of leading your fan base to do something like that, that's fine. I get it. What I'm more talking about are the petty things that we've seen penalized in the past,
Yeah.
where it's a slip up of a swear word, or it's like I don't agree with this penalty, and really like forcing it kind of thing in the media to where like we spend a whole week debating was
Yeah.
that a penalty or was it not a penalty.
Yeah.
That's my thing is like
Yeah.
how far. That's the problem is how far does it go,
Well, it's just like
right?
I like how you brought up the penalties thing because it is just like the roughing the passer deal.
Oh, it is.
It's exactly like that.
Yeah.
And
So
we're just gonna have to. I think the drivers will only let it go so far because at the end of the day, the F1 is a driver-run series, and
Oh, yeah.
so as much as the president wants to do these things, I mean, he's gonna have drivers that are not gonna want to
We've
do
have-
it, and
I mean, we can talk TikTok and social media because
Yeah.
everyone's been like, why don't they just all come out and say, "F you FIA" and
Yeah.
all get banned all
yeah,
at once?
yeah,
Mm.
go
There
for
it
it.
is.
We've
right?
had drivers
That's a
skip
huge
races
protest.
before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the most recent one was in Indianapolis 2005 when the tires were unsafe for the track. So all the drivers on the Michelin tires just did not compete in the race. They took themselves all out before
Yeah.
the start.
Yeah.
It's
No,
happened in the
it's
FO
just-
too, way
Like-
back in the day.
Like
Yeah.
drivers will do that.
Right.
Yeah,
And it's not like, and that's kind of the thing is like what we kind of started this conversation talking about is like, how far does it go outside of just this one rule? Is like, how far into this like dictatorship are we going to go?
yeah, yeah,
Because it can get unsafe very quickly.
absolutely.
We're talking about serious speed, serious G-forces. Like, it can go so wrong so fast without all of these things externally.
Yeah.
Right?
The pressure just increases.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
of course, drivers have an incredible mental ability.
Yeah.
Right? But if they're having to, in the car, also think about what they're going to say, what they can and can't say, you're adding more things, and eventually it's going to pile up to a point where, like I said, it's going to get unsafe. So
it could get to the point where we see.
Am I going further than the rule that just put in place? Sure.
Yeah.
It's maybe a slight, let's say, I don't want to say exaggeration, but you're going further. But
yeah,
I think it's important. I think this is
we could get to the point where, like, the F1 and Formula E, World Endurance, and WRC are not FIA sanctioned anymore.
That's been an argument in the past.
Do you see a world where
it could happen?
I don't see F1 walking away from the FIA. I see like Rally or World Endurance kind of making their own.
Well, the tricky part is the FIA owns the F1 name, and they like lease it to Liberty Media and Formula One Group.
Yeah.
So if F1 would break away in their own series, which they most recently threatened, I think in 2010, it couldn't be called Formula One anymore.
Well, that's the thing too. It could just be a new series that they started.
It would have to be called like World Super Racing or World Super Formula. Super Formula is already taken.
Yeah,
but it has happened
Champions League
before.
Racing.
Champions League Racing.
What was it?
Funny.
I mean, it has happened before. I mean, not necessarily maybe to Formula One, but to other racing. So, like, for example, IndyCar has changed her name like 4 times.
Happens. IndyCar went from kart to Indy Racing League.
Yep.
There's a split there, and it almost killed them. And some people say they still haven't recovered from that split, even though now they're in one league again.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. I don't know. Let us know what you think. My parents, we were talking about this the other day, and they were like, "Yeah, but like, really, like, is it that bad? Like, you're kind of like taking it too far." And I was like, "No, but like, if this affects who wins the championship, and like, forget about Max. This isn't about me. If this affects who is it? Say we have a huge championship fight between Charles and Lando, and it ends up coming down to the fact that Lando criticized the FIA twice this season.
Charles and Hamilton.
Whatever. Gosh. I'm using an example.
We're talking about realistic here, Jason.
Yeah, I'm being more realistic than you right now.
So if it comes down to like Charles and Lando criticized the FIA twice, and all of a sudden he has a 1-week ban, he's not participating in Abu Dhabi, there goes the championship. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's where to have a problem with. If you want to like penalize them and give them a bunch of monetary fines, go right ahead. I really don't care.
There is a craziness to it. There is, God forbid, this does actually play a part. It's kind of like, I mean, in a very roundabout way, like Spingate or Crashgate. It's very similar to that.
Spingate. See it in the future, Spingate.
I love it.
But
Lance Roll, Spingate. Second version of Crashgate, like it could happen. All the pieces are right. You got Alonso as a teammate.
Yeah. Dude.
Man.
No, it could. And it is kind of, it's, we talk a lot, and fans talk a lot about not wanting championships to be decided off the track.
Yeah.
Not wanting a race to finish and then penalties to come into play and the race winner change.
Because unfortunately, it's happened a good couple of times
Not
now.
wanting an Abu Dhabi 2021 where your stewards or the FIA is intervening with the race result. What is this rule?
Mm-hmm.
It's exactly the opposite of everything. Granted, I know that there's a difference between what the refs in an NFL game have to call and what the fans want them to call.
Of course.
Right? There is a right and a wrong.
Yeah.
You like it or not, it's a penalty, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's happened. I support one of the drivers who's most penalized in F1. There's times I don't agree with it. There's times I do. But the penalty is a penalty, right?
Yep.
But we want this to be decided on the track, and I just don't think we're going that way. I think we're
it's
just going further and further away.
It happens in all sports.
Oh, yeah.
And, again, we see it all the time in the NFL. I mean, we do see it a lot in MLB, too, of course.
Yeah.
Of course, other sports as well, but it's an international affair. It really is.
It absolutely
and
is.
something's got to change.
I think the show has just gotten a lot more involved. I think there's a lot more ego-driven, like, men and women on the sidelines that are trying to make it more about themselves than
look at
the
Jerry
product
Jones.
used to be. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that's a good example.
Talk about another dictator. Golly.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Rob Manfred, kind of like the same vibes,
Yeah.
But I don't know. It's definitely an interesting. Obviously, this is going to be something you're just going to have to take the duck to water and hope it swims, and we'll see what happens.
NASCAR ownership used to be like that.
Oh, dude. NASCAR ownership used to be rough.
Like they would just set the rules themselves.
NASCAR was unique, though, because it was a family-operated thing.
It's a family business.
The Frances ran NASCAR for, 70 years or something like that. And it went from father to son to son. But it used to be very corrupt. Like, it really did.
And there's no separation between the rule makers and the series like there is F1 and FIA.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
It's like NASCAR made the rules and the series, and they sold the tickets.
Yeah. It's a very unique perspective in motorsports because everything else has been pretty much committee-driven. Formula One, IndyCar, all that stuff, And
then you have the rule makers that fight with the promoters. Oh, yeah. Like F1 didn't want another team, but the FIA did. And we got to see that fight go down.
Yeah.
At least there's that check and balance here, but there isn't in NASCAR and many other American sports where the league
defines
also makes
the rules. Yeah.
NASCAR used to be interesting too because track ownership used to have to contend with they were their own individual thing. Yeah. I don't know how it works with the Formula One. I know the tracks are owned outside of the FIA and stuff like that. Think you guys check me right now.
Pretty much every single track except for Las Vegas is promoted and owned by entities that aren't the FIA or F1.
Okay.
They're all independent.
So maybe it is a little bit more similar though but actually now NASCAR is more conglomerated.
Owns so many racetracks
SMI
and
speed like that. Yeah,
they own so many of their own racetracks.
But it used to not be like that.
It
used to
IndyCar
be
too.
Yeah,
IndyCar can't race a lot of places now, or if they do, there's so many terms and conditions. Nashville Super Speedway, that's a SMI.
Yep, Texas. They used to race. Do they still race at Texas?
No, they don't anymore.
Texas used to be great. Texas sucked in NASCAR, but was really good in IndyCar.
IndyCar, yeah.
Because hands up, I like when the IndyCars are on the ovals. I think they're really good on the ovals.
I like it too. I like it too.
Also, I'll be the first one to say it. They need to go back to Pocono. I don't care about how dangerous it is. Those cars. That track was built for IndyCar. It was built for cars to haul ass as fast as they possibly could.
Yeah.
And just go crazy.
We need to bring back the Monza oval.
Oh my God.
That's very
Imagine
dangerous.
IndyCar gets there.
Yo,
man. But they'll never refurbish the oval, I think.
Nah.
Well, they got it scanned for IndyCar, or not IndyCar, iRacing, right?
I was going to say, you can play in Forza.
Too.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's crazy.
Because it's still
That's
there,
hilarious.
remnants of it, I think.
Yeah.
That'd be so cool.
It's still back there.
How cool would that be? A IndyCar international race at the refurbished Monza oval.
Can we have a Lost Speedway episodes with Dan Earnhardt on Monza?
That'd be huge.
I don't know if he still does that show.
I don't think he does either, but he's got to do it.
I only just realized that IndyCar has gone global before. I just saw I was just randomly doing, as I usually do, some Wikipedia digging, and they raced in Argentina and Brazil before.
There's talks about them going back because there's a few South American drivers
the connections there.
Yeah.
I think it was in Buenos Aires.
Let's go.
And, somewhere else they raced.
If this whole FIA thing goes south, we're gonna see lots of F1 drivers, I'm sure, going to IndyCar.
I don't know. That would take a series ending.
I think.
And that no side would let that happen.
If we're talking drivers leaving, I think leading the charge is gonna be the old guns.
Yeah.
And Max, right? Yeah. And that's a problem. As much as people F1 loves its younger generation, the fans love its Ollie Behrman, Lando, Charles. If you lose, imagine it. This is super exaggerated, right? Imagine 2020, end of this year or end of next year.
We don't make it to 2026.
End of 2026.
Right.
Yeah. Right. You lose Max, Lewis, and Fernando all at the same time.
Yeah.
That's a huge viewership you just lost.
Yeah, it is.
That's huge sponsorship money.
Fortunately
for
Formula One, though, the younger audience is getting attached to younger drivers. Whereas, NASCAR is having a struggle issue right now where the old heads are the ones that were still interested and are still they were interested, not so much now, and the younger audience really hasn't flourished.
Yeah.
Now, I think social media and Drive to Survive is a big contributing factor to why Formula One is doing really well with the younger audience, and that's why NASCAR is trying to copy them.
Yeah.
But they are doing forward because Max Verstappen is popular. You know, like Lando Norris is popular. Charles Leclerc is popular. They're all popular.
Whether they're popular because they're loved or they're hated, they're still popular.
Exactly.
And they still bring in revenue.
You can lose Lewis Hamilton.
Who was it? Was it Selena Gomez or Miley Cyrus who was talking about how like I love the haters. They single-handedly make my career. Like all of the millions of people that watch my video and pay me royalties. Like, so it's like I don't know. But speaking of Lewis, let's move on to Lewis and Ferrari had his first day this week in Maranello.
He donned the red.
We don't have too much time, but I want to talk about.
He did kind of look like a Don too.
He really did.
The photo shoot was perfect.
He looked slick.
They did it.
I mean,
so
he looked
good.
like he did. I don't know if you guys. I'm sure
Looks
you've
like he
seen the
belonged.
pictures of what's it called when Michael first arrived at Ferrari.
Yeah.
He looked just like him.
Yeah.
Like I mean, it was pretty much the exact same outfit.
All the hype for the first photos of him there perfectly lived up to. Like he showed up and said, "This is the vibe," and he chose that F40. Like Ferrari
that's his favorite car.
Ferrari could have picked any car. They're probably wanted to put their SF90 because they're struggling to sell them.
Yeah, really.
That would have been ideal.
Like that's what Ferrari would have wanted, but Lewis chose that F40.
Man's got good taste. I'll give him that.
He loves that car. I think that's
He's
not
got
mistaken.
One,
that is
right?
his favorite car.
I'm sure.
Did y'all?
Maybe now.
He had a Zonda for a while.
Crazy if he doesn't own an
F40. Did y'all see that? Lando Norris' F40 was crashed recently.
I thought it was so
my God,
that
was in Monaco, right?
It was in Monaco.
Yeah.
Of course, it wasn't him driving.
It wasn't him driving the
That's
car.
like the second time something like that has happened.
Imagine you being in charge of those cars.
Ridiculous.
And having to make a call to Lando Norris on vacation.
Mm-hmm.
Being like, I'm so sorry, but we crashed your Ferrari F40. And it's like...
Luckily, it wasn't that bad of a crash.
It wasn't too bad.
I think it just needs a new back.
Bumper.
But also, I mean, we could talk about Lewis Hamilton's dad crashing a CGT.
Yeah.
I did not know that.
That happened
That's
a long time ago. That was like
crazy.
2007,
I was gonna say,
2008.
it was like 15 years
This
ago.
is
Was that around the same time that Paul Walker died then?
It was a few years later in the same car.
That's insane.
Oh wait, it is the same car. I was
Yeah,
gonna say
they're both CGTs.
And do you know what people blame on? People blame on the original tires. So much so that Porsche this year, for a car that's 12 years old, they came out with new tires and a tire and suspension recall.
Well, I was going to say, it's not just the tires.
Like this year.
12 years.
They will replace your tires for free. $1,200. No, I think it's more like $2,500 set of new Michelin tires or new Bridgestones or whatever.
It's brand new suspension, new tires. You take it to Porsche, they'll fix it for you.
Yeah, and they'll give you service credit on top of it too if your suspension looks okay. Like, it's incredible. Porsche stood by their products all these years later, but it was bad enough where like, we'll replace your tires. They're bad.
Going back to the photo though. Can we talk about the fact that it was posted at 1644?
That's
Ferrari
is
windows. So extra.
Oh, they knew.
7 windows and an open door.
Yeah,
they're so extra.
I didn't notice that. That's some good research from Marina. I didn't see the.
Did you not see? I only saw that because of social media, granted, because I saw other people talking about it.
Well,
but
still, you saw it.
I saw
Put it in the notes.
So. We all know Lewis Hamilton was copying Jeremy Clarkson. I mean,
oh my God,
came out with his own photo shoot in front of like his 2014 Land Rover. Like,
he loves that thing.
Oh yeah,
that thing is
it's 10 years
classic.
old, but he still drives it. Every
He
day.
drives it in Clarkson Farm like that's his daily driver.
You think
it's
you
great.
Would have something newer. I mean, he definitely does.
I mean,
somewhat.
his car collection's stupid, but I mean,
there he is.
That's Britain's sexiest man alive right there. 2 years going on.
The caption is
right?
Lewis
That's so
Clarkleton.
Lewis Clarkleton is crazy.
That's my man's right there.
He's awesome.
Yeah. Did you guys see too? Because he got to drive the car. He did donuts.
Yeah.
Lewis did donuts in the car.
No, not in the F40, in the Ferrari.
No way.
I didn't see the
F1
donuts.
car.
I saw him driving that.
I like the
Jason's cringe.
I saw this. I saw a meme, not a meme, but a lot of captions that were talking about like, oh, they wouldn't let him do it in Abu Dhabi, but he can do them here.
Yeah,
or whatever.
It has to be in the closed course.
Yeah. I like the pictures of him approaching the fans. And again, like in my Throwback Thursday, I used a couple pictures that were really
can't
cool.
believe
how many people showed up.
Oh yeah.
It's tons.
It was
Ferrari
really
always
cool.
shows
It was
up
also
for
broadcasted
drivers.
on Sky Sports.
Yeah.
Insane.
In
Like
the
a
UK,
test
so.
where there's no track cameras.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's Lewis Hamilton for you.
I realize you can
Awesome.
just go up to the gates of the Maranello test track and just like
people go there for.
That'd be like a
sit there for
Sunday activity because
hours.
they test the street
Toronto.
cars there too, don't
Yeah.
they? Yeah.
Yeah,
I would go
there's
there.
people that follow that too. I follow one guy a couple different people on Instagram. All they do is camp out outside of the Lamborghini and Ferrari headquarters to watch for test cars.
That's
They just-
crazy.
I would love that.
they
That
just
sounds
have
like
a-
a good
that's what they
Sunday.
do.
Yeah,
Hey.
that's awesome.
Pull up with a case of beer and just kind of hang out, watch
Because
cars.
they got to
Yeah.
test them on the road, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah,
There's
exactly.
No other place.
Yeah.
So that's what they do.
Speaking,
Car spotting is awesome.
Speaking of, we actually we talked about Seb a while ago, but did you guys hear the rumors that Lewis called Seb before his debut?
No.
I'm not
Ferrari?
surprised. Of course,
That's
you
pretty
would.
cool.
I think that's really cool.
Yeah.
And all the stuff about Angela coming back, his physio.
Yeah.
That's
That's
huge.
so
I
exciting.
can't
Yeah.
believe it. Like when she left,
There was a
couple years
notable
ago,
change,
It
in my opinion.
but it was like why? And it was like, is it Angela? Is it Lewis?
It's not you, it's me.
It's only
Is
been
it
like
the
2
team?
years.
It could have
right?
been the
So
team.
so right now the rumor is it was Toto. It was Toto and the team. Because now he's leaving. He's going to Ferrari, and all of a sudden she's back.
Because she was
Yeah.
committed to Callum Ilott in IndyCar.
Yeah.
Like, that's what she did. Like it wasn't like she went back home to Australia.
Well,
No,
who
yeah,
paid
yeah.
her
Home
salary?
Australia.
Is it the team or was it Lewis?
I would assume if you ever watched Suits, this is how I would
Oh.
assume that
Wow,
like
Suits
the
and
team,
F1 is so
the
relatable.
team, or like in that case they would take like the firm would take like a piece of her salary. What would a normal physio make? And then he pays like the bonus or what her actually the rest of her actual salary.
Okay.
Yeah, I
That's
don't
how
think
it
the
is
team
with like that
in
was
the
how it was
cost
with
cap
Donna.
would ever
I
bring
would
on extra
I
stuff.
would imagine the physio is partially paid by the team and partially paid by the
Well,
driver.
maybe that's why. Maybe she was asking just a little too much
And the
money.
physio usually
I
follows.
doubt it because she probably
person.
is getting paid more now than she was before.
I know that's what I'm
for coming
saying
back.
though. Is maybe Mercedes just being dorks. It's
Yeah.
Like I
alright.
can't believe she's back though. Like this is it had to be a team thing if she's back. Like
Yeah.
this is so cool.
If she's back, is this Lewis back? Is Lewis
Oh,
back? Is
he's-
he gonna
he never
beat Charles
left.
Leclerc?
Here we go.
yeah, he's gonna have a chance.
This is like the final like piece of this week's.
He's got the
episode.
final Infinity Stone.
The best news was Lewis was like, "Oh, I drove out of the garage in the Ferrari. I had the biggest smile on my face. Like I can't believe how passionate he is. He's so
Oh, yeah.
ready for the Ferrari. Like he grew up watching Schumacher in
Absolutely.
the Ferrari battle Mika. But the funniest part is the actual quote they posted is like, "Man, it felt so good to drive the Ferrari HP out of the no shot." He said HP. There's
No,
zero chance
that's
he
altered.
said HP.
No,
The
he said
Ferrari.
a Ferrari, and then
No
they
shit.
added that part in.
It's like turning into NASCAR when they say their
Oh, name
sponsors
all
every
their
time.
sponsors.
Yeah,
Yeah, you know,
that's
the number
crazy.
28 Ford Mustang, sponsored by M&M's,
And that's
drove
such
great
a-
today.
That's such a difference in American motorsport. Like American motorsport, albeit it's not as big, so it's way more sponsor supported.
Yeah.
You know, all the drivers always shout out their car like,
Yep.
"Oh yeah, thanks for the Menards team for doing
Yeah.
this. Like it would have
Yeah.
been possible without our
Yep.
partners." But in F1, like you never see Charles Leclerc shout out HP or Snapdragon.
no.
or-
That
Yeah.
that would sound weird, honestly. Like Max saying, like, thanks to the number one Rebel Racing
Well,
Ford.
Like unless it's
Yeah.
an ad read, Lewis almost never says, "Oh yeah, thanks for the Patronus team for putting this." He's
No,
he's
yeah.
gonna
Yeah.
say
It's
thanks
definitely
for all
more
the team
of
and
the
Brackley.
team's responsibility. I
Yeah.
think.
And
Yeah.
even like Red Bull is Oracle Red Bull Racing, and it's just Red Bull. Like it's always shortened or Visa Cash App RB, and we just say V Carb or the Racing Bulls or whatever.
Yeah, Press has
So
never
it's-
said.
you don't have that culture.
You know what's even weirder? Actually, like I'm not only just now thinking about this, and I could be wrong, but I feel like they went in like post-race interviews, stuff like that. They almost never talk about the car or like the team behind the car. If that
They
makes
do.
sense.
They do.
I don't know. Like I feel
I
like
think
I
they
feel like
thank
I
the
hear more about
team.
just the race.
But
Like not like, oh yeah, like the team was really good today. The pit stops were really fantastic. You know, my engineers got it really
Yeah.
tuned up perfect. We had the great setup and all like that.
yeah, you don't
I feel like
hear
it's
as
more
much
like
about,
just about what the race. And sure, it's all fair and game. You know, like
Yeah.
the race happened. We watched the race. The race is what it was up, and it's what we want to hear about.
No,
Yep.
But I
absolutely.
almost like that with NASCAR interviews and stuff, where it's like, yeah, the team really, like came together this weekend. Blah blah
Yeah.
blah blah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I could be
It's
totally
interesting.
wrong. Again, this could be just nitpicking because I'm here in the moment, but
Yeah.
it is what it is.
All right, so last thing before we like call it a day.
Mm.
Who is finishing the championship higher, Lewis or Charles?
Oh.
One word, rapid fire. Jason.
Lewis. I really want it to be
Lewis.
Lewis. I really want it to be. All the signs are saying Charles is so more experienced, but then Lewis is also more experienced. So
Man,
it's
that's
like
so tough. Tristan.
This is impossible. I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go with just the gut feeling. I think it's Charles. I do.
Steven?
I think Lewis.
Oh, yeah,
think
Charles.
Lewis,
So
too.
we're
You know,
50-50
you know
split.
why I
50.
think Lewis isn't impossible? Because he tied with Fernando Alonso in his rookie year of F1.
But
Fernando
That is
Alonso,
crazy.
two-time champion. Lewis never been in an F1 car before,
But now he has.
and he tied. Yeah,
It's
but
a whole
now
different
he has.
situation.
Yeah.
Yeah, but does that make it better?
And he's
Like,
got
it
his
could
trainer
happen.
back too now.
It could
Got his
happen.
trainer back.
I don't know, man. We'll
And
see.
he
What's
raced
her
with
name
Patrick
from
Vasseur
Cars 3?
in Formula 2.
Chelsea.
Hey, what's Tom Brady without the TB12 method? Come on now.
Yo,
Dude.
apparently he's like ruling TB12 into the Raiders right now.
Oh, yeah?
It's
Well-
like being totally rolled out. It's like every single person, even Pete Carroll's on TB12 now.
Yeah, man.
Now that we're talking ball, go Birds.
Absolutely
Birds.
Go
not.
Birds.
It's Go Birds at 3 p.m. today.
Let's go,
We're
Commanders.
going to the freaking bowl.
No, you're not.
New Orleans,
With
the
that,
Bourbon District.
anyways, thank y'all so much for watching. We will be back, as always, next Monday, 11:30 Eastern Time. In the meantime, check out our socials at Lights Out Latest. Bye, guys.
Oh.
Goodbye.
Peace.